By taking reasonable steps today, such as allowing increased immigration, we can put Canada back on the right path. An additional 60 million people will need places to live.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David, and today's top stories, we've got Kevin O'Leary doing it again. He is absolutely ripping Justin Trudeau on broadcast mainstream media, on television. Kevin O'Leary has no problem saying what he really thinks about Justin Trudeau, and he's done this probably 4 or 5 times in the last year.
When we syndicate debt for real estate projects, we don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, so I deal with a lot of investors, agnostic to politics, and some of them are very big contributors to the Democratic Party. I heard for the first time today, because we like to talk about politics, mostly on policy, and what he said to me was, some of us are having some buyer's remorse. We wish we'd run a process because we got so much press in the first 9 days of bringing somebody into the party and raised 200 million plus, which is like a balloon underwater. It just wasn't Biden, so they started contributing. But we gave up 5 weeks of fantastic social media in guessing who really should be the candidate. Now, I hadn't heard that before. It's not that many. I'd guess 20% or something like that. But so that's starting to crack a little bit. And there is precedence for what's going on here. I ask everybody to look north to Canada. When a young Justin Trudeau swept in, nobody cared about his executional skills or what he'd ever done or anything. They just thought he was the it guy. Look at the country now. It's wiped out. And because it turns out the guy had no executional skills. It would be important to leave aside the politics and ask, what has Kamala Harris actually done, actually achieved? Because if I was hiring her, and I'm not trying to be partisan, I would ask her, what was a goal? What did you achieve? Because any governor or any senator that would put into presidential, viability would have a history, a track record of doing stuff.
What do you think she would say, Kevin, if you asked her in an interview straight up, Kamala, what's your biggest accomplishment? What would she say?
I don't know, because I don't know of one. But I can tell you this: in the next 2 weeks, the happy talk is going to have to stop, because someone's going to sit her down and say, let's talk inflation. Let's talk border.
The same thing with Trudeau. He doesn't know anything about any of that stuff. He blew up after that boxing match. That article was written, and then he just got pushed out back into the limelight. You got to remember, Justin Trudeau was born when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was in power. He was the prime minister baby while he was in power. So he was immediately pushed into the limelight as a baby. And then he's just been known ever since. Like the survey they had, 98% of Canadians out of that 2000 whatever survey could identify Justin Trudeau, but only 7% can identify Mark Carney, and only 61% can identify Chrystia Freeland. So Trudeau's always been popular. Basically everyone in Canada can identify Captain Schmuck even before he became prime minister. So the same thing with Kamala Harris here. What has she done? Like, Trudeau hasn't done anything. He's just a spoiled trust fund kid who accomplished nothing. I mean, he quit halfway through the school year at West Point Grey School. I mean, is that his accomplishments? He was a ski instructor. Like, he had some random jobs. Is this Justin Trudeau 2.0 in America? What has she done? If you look at her record, she's definitely got more credentials than Trudeau. But I don't know, America.
Let's talk policy on energy. Let's talk policy on foreign affairs. And if she doesn't deliver on that with the new vision towards the center, the guy that said, I wish we'd run a process, is going to be right. If she wants to win, she's got to go to the center, but she's got to have some ideas on how to run the country. You might hate Trump, but he has this track record of policy. You might hate him. I get it. But, you got to do something.
No tax on tips, border wall, tax reductions, stop the wars. I mean, you can nail it. I don't know what she wants. I just know she wants the power. Kevin O'Leary, you're right, though. That would have been the greatest American Idol audition this country's ever seen, and they just handed it to her, and now look what happened.
That's a very good point. I mean, whether you like Trump or not, it's very clear what his policies are, border wall, everything they just named there. There's no mystery what Trump will do. He's going to want to make the economy boom again. You can just literally go through what he did. He'll do the same sort of things. But Kamala Harris is a big question mark. I think America is kind of missing out here with, pushing all the support behind her. I got no horse in the race in America because I'm not American. I don't have any plan to live in America. I don't follow the American politics all that close, but I do know for a fact there are some candidates down there, Democratic ones, that would be much better suited, just much smarter people than Kamala Harris. But, the donors, the planners behind all of it, all the people who pull the strings, They choose who they want to push to the top and put all their money behind.
When a young Justin Trudeau swept in, nobody cared about his executional skills.
As Kevin OLeary said here, young Justin Trudeau sweeps in here and now Canada's wiped out. That's what happens when a bonehead loser runs a country who doesn't know what he's doing. Kamala's more extreme than Joe Biden, and we see where Joe Biden has got us in the last 3 years. OLeary is wrong. China, not Canada, is the model the Democrats are following. Kamala Harris is a far-left lunatic and completely unelectable. Very divisive in America. Canada is a little more mixed bag. We've got 3-4 parties that are in the runnings. I know most of Canadians don't vote Bloc, but Bloc do get a good percentage because of their large population in Quebec. Another win for Kevin OLeary. He's been on a remarkable streak lately. Next up, we got this. Families now spend more money on taxes than basic necessities. So this report has come out pretty scathing. It says, according to the report, the total tax bill for the average Canadian family has skyrocketed 2,778% from 1961 to 2022, far exceeding the increase expenditures on essential items for the same time period. Comparatively, in the same period, shelter costs have risen 1,880%, food is up 870%, and clothing 654%. In 2022, the average family earned an income of $106,000 and paid $48,000 in taxes, amounting 45% of their income, and 35% of their income was spent on necessities such as food, shelter, and clothing. This is a significant shift from 1961, when 33.5% of a family's income went to taxes and 56% was allocated to basic needs. I've got a chart here that shows this. You can see, yeah, there it is, taxes. And we go back here, 1961. That's, wow. Just look at this. 1961, things were pretty good. And things really went bad after about 1970. I believe this is when the U.S. went off the gold standard, and that's things just start to go up. I'm surprised actually shelter is not off the charts up here, but it definitely has gone up. But taxes, we're just taxed into oblivion here. So really the only thing that hasn't gone up a ton is clothing. Food's gone up, shelter, and taxes, obviously. We've got this here. It says income taxes, 31%, payroll, sales tax, property taxes. These numbers are based on 2023, so it's got dollar values in here too. So total percentage of taxes, 43%. Yeah, here it is all broken down. At this point, the government can take 100% of my paycheck and give me back my fair share. Joke's on you, but I don't even have a wallet. I don't even have money for the essentials. How can I afford a wallet? Now adjust for inflation or percentage of average income. Next up, we got this post here, basically talking about the Century initiative that the Liberals got going on. They want to bring in 100 million people into Canada.
By taking reasonable steps today, such as allowing increased immigration, we can put Canada back on the right path. Now, of course, an additional 60 million people will need places to live, work, and study, as well as transportation links between them. And that is the opportunity I want to talk to you about today. I suspect that the first question many of you, when you heard 100 million people, was, where will they all go? Now, based on our projections and the trends towards urbanization, the answer is that many of them will in fact be drawn to our urban centers. If Canada had a population of 100 million, the Century Initiative projects that Toronto would be home to 17 million people. The GTA, somebody just choked on their dinner, the GTA would grow to 34 million people. Montreal would increase to about 11.4 million. The city of Vancouver itself would rise to 7 million, and a part of a greater Vancouver area of closer to 12 million. Canada would in fact become a nation of mega regions.
So I spent about 15 years in Vancouver, and it's 2 million population. I think it's 2 point something now, 2.5. Triple that number. It's already so packed and dense with all these giant towers, and there's really no new roads or infrastructure at all in Vancouver. Vancouver is the only city in North America that doesn't have a major highway that runs through it. And And that's talking about Vancouver specifically, not Greater Vancouver. There's a highway through Burnaby, but that doesn't go through Vancouver. What are they going to keep doing? Just building more towers everywhere? Not only that, by expanding, say, an area like Vancouver, where there isn't a lot of land to grow food, that land's going to get taken up, and then we're going to be importing more food. But food will get more expensive, and we won't be eating local, and we won't be able to control what sort of pesticides or whatever. There won't be any controls over the food. Yeah, you got the Trudeau Liberals completely demonizing our own farmers, but then they have no problem shipping in stuff from third world countries where we have no idea how they grew the food. Next up, we got this post, which is really interesting. It says Chinese EV maker BYD tells Ottawa it plans to enter the Canadian market. So BYD is basically, I think, the biggest Chinese EV company. What does this mean for Canada? Are they going to be bringing cheap cars here that's just going to undercut everyone else? And you'll see this big flood of cheap EVs in Canada? It's really interesting to see here. BYD Mexico plant will create 10,000 jobs. In May, it held the global launch of the Shark Truck in Mexico. There you go, folks. You want a shark truck? Extinction level event. BYD's Seagull EV now cost under 10K. This is wild. Imagine 10K car. You got another one here. BYD says that new hybrid cars can go 1,250 miles. That's not kilometers, that's miles, without stopping for gas or charging. That's wild. Got this here. It says the Trudeau Liberals are giving various invitation-only organizations $20 million to run a program called Renewed Women's Voice and Leadership in Tanzania, Somalia, and Senegal, because we have so much money to give the rest of the world. What is going on here? Once Trudeau's out of power, is he going to go visit Tanzania, Somalia, and Senegal? And is he going to get a briefcase back from these countries and a quick high five? Is that what's going to happen? What is this? Let me guess. The contracts will go numbered companies owned by Liberals with head offices in tax havens like Barbados. At Justin Trudeau, you have no business giving my money to any foreign country. I do not consent to this. How original. More money laundering and kickbacks. Who would have thought? Break Canadians, but give $20 million to programs in other countries. Next up, we've got this clip, which I thought was really interesting because there's the guy pooping at the gas station. We got guys pooping in the beach. This Indian guy has come forward and he's calling them out. And that's what I like, because really it's not the whole community, 1.4 million. It's going to be the really small percentage that are doing these things. And it makes the rest of the people from India look bad. And so I like that they're calling out their own community here.
You Indians that are pooping on the beaches, I know it's happening. Otherwise, so many people across all the beaches won't be complaining. I also know that you are a very small minority, probably less than 5% of us. But you 5% have become very problematic for all of us. Because the fact is that 95% of us Indians are very thankful to be in this country, are very respectful of Canadian culture and values. We've worked very hard to put together a decent life, and we want to contribute something positive back to this society. But you 5% keep embarrassing us in public. Every time you do something stupid and a person from a different community looks at you, he thinks it's probably part of their culture. Your stupidity overshadows all the good we do. You are not an accurate representation of our community.
I mean, all those clips he showed are all recent ones. The guys robbing the liquor store, there's guys brawling, there's another robbery. It's all people, look like they're straight from India, the pooping on the beach.
Look, guys, you got to have some civic sense. The core values of this country are of acceptance and tolerance, but it can only be to a certain extent. It's time you get better, only then you can expect better.
What people need to understand doesn't matter if you're coming from India or any other country. One of our core values here in Canada is nobody poops in public, period. That is not acceptable in this country, ever. If you're anywhere in a town, in a city, you go find a bathroom, you go to McDonald's, Tim Hortons, public washrooms, a mall. You don't just drop your pants and drop a hot one. It's like the guy at the gas station, Maybe it was a pump and dump scheme. We don't know. But there's no pooping at the gas station unless you're in the building, in the bathroom. Not right by the pump. That's not what happens in this country. It's disgusting. This is not how we operate here. I don't want to be going to a store and then see someone's hot Carl sitting there. It's just like driving on the road. We're all driving on one big piece of pavement with just a thin line that separates us, but we obey the rules of the road. We don't just start driving in the other lane. We don't start going wherever we want. We obey the rules, and collectively it works as a whole. Same thing with pooping. We all have agreed that we will not poop in public. We will not just drop our pants and just rip one out right in a park because it's convenient. We have all agreed to that in Canada. So I like that this guy's calling it out, but we need stricter penalties. Unfortunately, we have a bunch of boneheads running our government, so it's not going to happen until we get Pierre Poilievre in power. Next up, we got this clip here of Pierre Poilievre. He's at some construction facility talking with some guys.
Yes.
What are the steps that need to be taken to fix the damages done to inflation?
First and foremost, stop the overspending. Inflation, high taxes, deficits, high interest rates are all symptoms. The disease is overspending. When governments spend too much money, there's only three ways to get it. One is to raise your taxes. The other is to borrow, which means that they'll tax you more later on. And the third way is to print money. Now, printing money seems like a painless way to pay for things, but it's very simple. If you have 10 apples and $10 in the economy, it's a bucket apple. If you double the number of dollars in the economy to 20, you still only have 10 apples. You're not twice as rich. It's just that each apple costs twice as much. And that is a tax on the working people because it chews up the purchasing power of your paycheck, only to pay for excessive government spending, and it balloons the asset values of the billionaires. So it's a real transfer from the have-nots to the have-yots. Inflation is the worst and most immoral tax. It always results from government creating cash. Our government has created about $700 billion of cash in the last 3 years. So we used to have $1.8 trillion of bills, coins, and bank deposits. That was about 3-4 years ago. Now it's up to 2.5 trillion. So that's extra cash, but the economy has only grown by 4%. So the real things in the economy have only grown by 4%. The cash has grown by 40. So the money supply is growing 10 times faster than the stuff money buys, which creates a bidding war. And that's what's driving up inflation. We have to cap government spending with a dollar for dollar law that requires my ministers find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending so that they go into their departments, find the waste and mismanagement. They want to spend more here, they have to spend less there, or get a bargain here and there to bring both under budget. Then and only then will we stop the money printing, borrowing, and overtaxation and wrestle inflation to the ground. Thank you.
And just to break this down, for how much Trudeau has spent, $600 billion in the last 3 years. As he said there, $1.8 trillion, which went up to $2.5 trillion. So basically, say if you have $100,000, after 3 years of Trudeau, that $100,000 is only worth $75,000, roughly like 25% less, something like that, because of his spending. It's just like his Apple's example there. So we've all lost 25% of our money because of Trudeau. He has robbed all of us. It's an absolute crime and a sin what he has done to us. This is not just him spending some money and him getting rich. He's making all of us poor. We break our backs and this guy is ruining our lives and our money supply. It's an absolute crime against all of us. It's a crime against Canadians. As a reply, somebody posted this, Canada's population growth, kaboom, yep. Next, we got a post here of a Canadian talking about the prices of groceries in Canada and just not understanding how people are making it.
Let's talk about groceries in Canada right now. Groceries in Canada have become so insane. We have a family of 6. It's my husband, myself, my dad, and my 3 children. When I say children, they're adults. I have a 23-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 15-year-old. We don't shop at expensive places. We go to Walmart for our everyday goods. We go to another store called La Coco's for our produce because they have great produce. And then we go to the butcher's. Last week, for 1 week to feed our family at these 3 stores, which used to cost on average, I'd say about $350, $375, I spent over $600 last week for 1 week. I want to know how other people are doing this. Like, I really want to know how Canadians are affording to pay for these groceries.
It's $2,400 a month she's spending on groceries.
It is insane. And we don't eat steak every night. No, let's be clear. It's like chicken and sausage, and we have pasta, and some nights we do breakfast for dinner. Like, these aren't extravagant dinners we're having. I don't understand how Canadians can keep going with the prices of food, the prices of utilities, mortgage rates, property taxes. Oh my God, we got our property taxes in. I don't get how we're supposed to keep doing this. Our government is making us bankrupt, absolutely bankrupt.
Yep.
There's no way mortgages should be as high as they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone's struggling. Doesn't matter how much the mainstream media points a finger at Polyev. Every Canadian knows who's been in charge the last 9 years. Left or right, everyone knows. The only ones propping up Trudeau are the ones that benefit from this corrupt system. The most expensive vehicle to operate in Canada. This comment here is so sad. As a disabled Canadian, once my parents are unable to help support me, I might as well look into MAID or look into the alternative. There's like people every day, couple dozen or more, that are taking this route because of Trudeau. Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we've got. What is happening to our country of ours? I don't understand. People are sleeping everywhere on the streets in Saskatchewan. So we've got people making homes out of anywhere and everything. I mean, this is Justin Trudeau's Canada. This is his plan, is to run Canadians into the ground, to destroy as many lives as possible and cause as much suffering as possible. At least that's what his policies have all lined up to do, despite him saying everything is great and Canadians are doing better than ever. We're doing worse than ever. So we've got a couple of these things going around. New Canadian $50 bill. We're a joke on the world stage. Welcome to Dryden, Ontario. Don't spit in the urinal pot. Please throw bottles in the bin. Don't wash your feet here. 4 seasons in Canada: winter, spring, fall, and construction. If the government has enough money to send to foreign countries, you're being taxed too much. Yep. Trudeau doesn't care. He's like, Papa's gotta have a retirement fund in Somalia. Like, really? 20 million here, 50 million there. Just chucking our money around like it's nothing. If you can afford this in Canada, you're definitely upper middle class. This is crazy. Oh my God. That's where we'll wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought. Kevin O'Leary always running his mouth about Trudeau. He always hits. He's not missing here. It's time after time. This half a dozen times now in the past year. He just keeps bringing up Trudeau. We need this. We need Trudeau to be humiliated, not only by everyday Canadians, people like me. I'm just here to take your money, guys. Like, sure, but we need the bigger people, the bigger fish, the celebrities, everyone to just point out Trudeau. You know, you had the Mick Jagger concert. He's like, oh yes, the Trudeau, I love Trudeau. And everyone started booing and he was so confused. We need more of these moments to just keep humiliating the guy, because it was very clear when Justin Trudeau was on the beach with his kid in Tofino there, he didn't want to seem like a loser to his kid. That he seems like that's his number one thing. He doesn't want to be humiliated to his kid. He probably doesn't allow his kid to see the news. The more we do this, the more he'll probably realize I should step down because I look like a loser to my child, or all his kids. Especially, I think it was his youngest one there he was with. So this has got to be the plan going forward. Humiliate him as much as possible. Point out all his bad policies and how he's doing us wrong here in Canada. So I'm going to keep bringing you guys the honest truth here, bringing you the real news. We're going to keep fighting for freedom. Be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next one.